in the sense of the individual who gets used to getting handouts has a low self-esteem because they're not able to do anything for themselves. And then that leads to a whole nother slew of
Right.
problems, which we don't want to get into. But the idea of helping others, doing something outside of what is directly in your self-interest, is where I think empathy comes in.
Leaders Talk, Season 2.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's your favorite time of the week. It's my favorite time of the week. It's time for Leaders Talk. And as always, I am your intrepid host, Andrew Dupy, host of the Leaders Talk podcast and head of communications here at Leaders Brands. And today, I usually say my next guest needs no introduction, continuing to quote David Letterman. But in this case, it's actually very, very true because my next guest does not need an introduction. This is his third appearance on Leaders Talk. I think Steve Martin made a joke about Saturday Night Live having a five-timers club. Maybe we'll have a five-timers club here with Rahul. But it's Dr. Rahul Prasad. He is an author. He's a philanthropist. He's a photographer. He's the author of Impact Shift, which we have discussed before. But we're going to go a little bit more deeper into that and talk about his more recent work and where he is at and where he is going. Rahul, welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Again.
Thank you so much.
I always enjoy having you on. And for those of our audience that may have missed some of your previous episodes, just give us a short rundown of yourself, and then we can just kind of roll into things.
Sure. As you gave the highlights, and that is very true. I'm applied physicist by training and worked in applied physics for a good 3 decades, and then decided that it was time to do something different. And over the course of the next decade, I transitioned into full-time philanthropy, which is what I do right now. I've always been an avid photographer. I've always been an explorer and curious about the world around me, which is why I got into physics in the first place. And now I use that curiosity to go to places far and wide. I've traveled all 7 continents. I've been to almost 100 countries, and I want to keep going and keep doing that because the more I travel, the more I learn, the more I understand us humans, the more I understand the natural world, the happier it makes me.
Absolutely. I am definitely envious of, of some of the things that you have managed to do. So I live vicariously through you whenever I have you on as a guest. But yeah, we've always had great conversations. So tell us a little bit about what you've been up to lately.
So the most recent thing has been the publication of my book, Impact Shift, The Art of Pivoting for Meaningful Change. That was published back in February, on the 2nd of February. It's available on Amazon, everywhere else now as well, in both softcover, hardcover, as well as in Kindle format. And what I'm doing right now is recording the audiobook, which should be coming out shortly when that whole thing is done. I've also, of course, been on podcasts and all the rest of that good stuff. And I'm working on my 2 nonprofit organizations, raising money for children in India through Butterflies USA and raising money for children in South Africa through Amandla Development, which works out of Cape Town, Philippi, to be more exact.
Excellent. And give us a little bit of a rundown about Impact Shift and what made you write it? What do you want audiences to get away with it? I mean, just basically kind of give us an idea of also what it's about. So we'll dig into those as we go here.
So what is it about? It's about my life. So in some, it's part autobiographical, but then it's also a part how-to. So if you are thinking of making an impact shift, you've made an impact in one career, you've done something amazing, and everybody has a different idea of what amazing is, but you come to that point where it isn't enough and you want to try something different. My book is a how-to guide. How do you get around to moving to that next step, that next chapter of your life? And it can be used by somebody who's mid-career and chooses to go ahead and switch, or it could be somebody who's contemplating retiring and wants to know what we're going to do afterwards. Because one of the things that we humans love to do is have a purpose. And if you don't have a purpose, most of us, our purpose is our work. And we devote 110, 120, 150% of our effort into that. But that also leaves a big hole if that purpose comes to an end either because of a sudden change, your career decides you've gone as far as you can and there's nothing else to do, so you've decided you want to switch. Or it could be that the industry you're in has just taken a turn for the worse and
Right.
you've been downsized and that's the end of that. And so all of these various reasons why you might want to change is something that you can get a handle on by reading my book. And that's what I try to do is by giving personal anecdotes of how I navigated all these various changes in my life, how I navigated adversity, how I navigated, being in a new place, all that sort of thing, so that people get an idea that I'm not the first one doing this. I'm not alone in doing this. There is a way, and it is not that difficult.
Right. And see, that's the thing. Many people automatically default in their minds to it is difficult,
Yes.
especially as you're starting to get a little bit older. I mean, I have a four that's about to turn into a five, so that concerns me sometimes when I think about it. And I've shared a little bit about I've now run into health issues that I haven't had before. But you get to that age, but you also sometimes I'm lucky to work in an industry that I feel is very rewarding. But sometimes when you're my age or a little bit older, you may be in an industry where you find, I made good money, I had a good life, I've had good time, but do I really feel rewarded from it? Have I really given anything back? And people are afraid to make a
Yes,
change, especially if they've already got something that's solid and that
absolutely.
continues to do those things. So how do you find that bravery to maybe make your life feel a little more meaningful to yourself?
So I started by doing little bits at a time.
Hmm.
So I decided, I've always had this idea that us humans, the way our race moves forward is through our children. And therefore, working to help children wherever they are is a worthwhile endeavor. And so when I started getting to the point where I was feeling I've made a lot of impact in my field of applied physics, and I was in nuclear fusion in the fusion facility in Lawrence Livermore Labs here in California, and I'd done as much as I could, and I figured, this is going to bear fruit, but it's going to bear fruit well after my lifetime. And so I started getting itchy feet. I wanted to see the result of my work in my lifetime. And that's when
Right.
I decided that maybe trying something different is a good idea. Maybe something that's
Mm.
not going to take the next 20, 30, 40 years. It's better to try something like that. And my default immediately was children. And so I decided I was going to volunteer. And by volunteering for a little bit of time, you can still continue with your regular profession. You're not taking a leap, you're not jumping off a cliff, you haven't figured out, you're scoping out what makes you tick. And if you then go ahead and you do this little bit, maybe, an hour or 2 hours, something like that in the week, which is not time that you can spare. All of us have that time.
Right.
You spend it and then do the analysis for yourself. How did that make you feel? Was that something that energized you, or that's something that made you feel like, oh my God, what is this? Why did I get into this? And so dip your toes in the water. It's kind of the same way as you arrive at a swimming pool, you have no idea whether or not it's heated. You have no idea what temperature the water is. How do you figure out whether you should jump in? Do you just take the leap and, get cold and or get boiling hot? Not a good idea. You dip your toe in, see what the temperature feels like. Feels good, you go a little deeper and then you get a little bit more. And so another way to look at it, the way I like to look at it is make micro pivots when you're trying to shift.
Mm.
You're not going immediately 180 because that's tough. Try it in a car. And you're driving in the car when you're going from one lane to the other. You don't want to wait until the last bit to take that 90-degree turn off the freeway into the exit.
Right.
You want to start by shifting lanes so that by the time you arrive at your exit, you're at the exit lane. And it's not stressful. And it's the same kind of thing in life, the same kind of thing with a career. And so that's how I dealt with it, was start a little bit, found that was something enjoyable to me, then did a little bit more, then did a little bit more. And after a while, I discovered, you know what? This is something I want to do. I can let go of the apron strings. I can choose to say, okay, that was a wonderful life. That was a great time. There was a great amount of work, and it had an enormous impact on the field, but I'm done with that. It's the next generation's turn to take care of taking that to the next level. And I'm going to try something different. And this is something meaningful, like I did, something in philanthropy as I did, but it could be a completely different career choice as well. If you wanted, you've been doing something for a while and you decide, hey, I want to teach.
Right.
That's not philanthropy, that's not volunteerism, but you could do that. But don't start by applying for a job as a teacher without trying to teach first.
Mm.
Maybe tutor a neighboring kid, something simple, and then see whether that rewards you, makes you feel accomplished, or does that make you feel like, oh my God, what did I get into? Because, with good credentials, you'll get that job as a teacher. Lord knows we need teachers in our country.
Yeah.
But then you arrive there on the day of school, the first day of school, and you go, what am I doing here? In the first class, you walk out of it, you go, oh my God, this is so much worse. You don't want to do that.
As a teacher, I can understand that there are many people that actually do actually run into that moment
Yep.
when they jump right in. But that's I think that one of the things that I take away from a lot of this is that people shouldn't be so hesitant to reward themselves
Yes.
with and I do feel that a lot of people think that they shouldn't do that. I mean, or that rewarding yourself is not necessarily something that is feasible, that you should always take the practical choice. You should always take the finance, especially in the United States. I think that
Mhm.
we're very much a country that is built on the idea of you should take the always the best idea that's financially stable. If that's something that's
Correct.
boring and doesn't fulfill you, oh well. There's that statement: you can rest when you die. That is in too many businesses, but that is I think damaging because
Yeah.
that ends up driving people to early graves. That ends up putting people in positions where they may have the resources to help, but they
Yes.
never do it. And that to me is I think what's really important to take away from your book is that we really need people to be able to not be afraid to reward themselves.
Exactly. And I think it is really necessary for our own mental well-being,
Mhm.
as well as therefore for us as we are a part of society, our own families, for example, the nearest and dearest ones to us. When we are unhappy, we are not good people to be around.
Right.
And so that reflects in our behavior with people who we love the most, the people who we're actually trying to do this work for, because we're trying to create this wealth that we're going to leave to them to make their life easier. But if we've put ourselves in a position where we're not happy doing that, we're actually not good for them while we're around. Maybe
Mm.
that money will be good for them after we're gone, but it's not going to be pleasant for them to be around us while
Right.
we're just unhappy people. And that's why I think rewarding oneself is very important. And as you rightly pointed out, it's really important from a health standpoint as well.
Mm.
Because physical health is one thing, but mental health is also just as important.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that we understand less of. You
Mm.
have a problem with your body, physical part of your body, you go to a doctor, there's so many tests they can run. They can pinpoint what's wrong. They can pinpoint how to fix it. Today, you have personalized medicine. They can actually make a concoction that is for you and you alone. It might not work for me, even though we might suffer from the same disease. And that's how specific they've gotten to. But we still don't understand how the brain works as much and what makes one person sad in a certain situation, depressed in the same situation, and another person can get up in the morning and say, okay, I'm ready to go.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's why empathy is important
Yes.
because that's something that, we I think as a species have always shared. I mean, multiple others have empathy, but it's the fact that we're able to apply empathy beyond just our narrow focus of just the people that are in our family, the way that other animals might do, humans have large scale empathy. You can think
Yes.
about not just what will affect someone, but you can think about how that someone's actions then will affect others and others and others and kind of grow. So, and I think empathy is something that we definitely need a lot more of in this world
Mhm.
because lack of empathy clearly is damaging. So I mean, what do you feel about empathy and how you can apply it?
I think anytime you think about doing something which is going to help somebody else, you
Mm,
decide to go volunteer your time, you decide to write a check to a charity, you are showing empathy,
mhm,
right? Because this is a person, this is a group of people, this is an organization that is completely outside of your close network. It's not your family, but you're able to relate to them. I support children in India and in South Africa because I believe that a child has brilliance, which is not determined by the amount of resources they have. That's an innate thing that you're born with.
mhm,
And to make that brilliance shine is where resources come into play. Because people who have the resources can use that brilliance and they have an idea of what opportunities are available, where they can apply their brilliance to. But a child that's born brilliant, but let's say was born in a cave and never met another human, how would that child know how to apply the brilliance they've got innate in them,
mhm.
right? We got to be able to go around. You need that, and there, that's where the empathy comes in. When you see somebody that is not doing well, that is needs a little bit of assistance, if it is in your power, help them. I'm not suggesting that you start creating handouts and don't make it, that doesn't work either because then that's goes in the wrong direction in the sense of the individual who gets used to getting handouts has a low self-esteem because they're not able to do anything for themselves. And then that leads to a whole another slew of
Right.
problems, which we don't want to get into. But the idea of helping others, doing something outside of what is directly in your self-interest, is where I think empathy comes in. And
Right.
interestingly enough, the more you do it, the richer you get, not in money, but in feeling, in good feeling,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you're a happier individual and you get rewarded, and you get rewarded in ways that are completely unmeasurable by the standard means of success, which is money and the corner office and what have you.
Yeah. That's just it. You can't buy that feeling. I
No,
mean,
you
you
cannot.
can have a high-end car, you can have corner offices, you can have a yacht, you can have all of those things. And I know people who have achieved those and are absolutely miserable.
Yep,
And,
absolutely.
and absolutely have take no joy out of life at all because they live in a world where they're a complete workaholic
Hmm.
and they do absolutely nothing but that and they're doing nothing but accumulating things. And I think that's where we've kind of lost things, especially again, I don't mean to denigrate my country, but I think that the United States has issues with we value things over feeling. And
Yes,
we value the item shows your worth, not what you've given back.
that's
So
exactly right.
what are ways that we can break that down? I mean, it's a yeah. I feel that people are becoming more cognizant of this. I hope
Yes.
they are. But yeah, what are some ways we can maybe break that down? Maybe some of the
I,
anecdotes that you have from
I
your.
I think a simple way to do it is to look around you.
Hmm.
Now, on a trip about now, good Lord, it's a decade ago to Africa, I had the chance of visiting a village in the Masai Mara. And I saw this tribe, the Masai people, and they're living there. And there's these kids that are playing. They've literally nothing. They're in tatters. Their shoes are not shoes. They're actually old pieces of tires that have been sewn into the shape of slippers, which is what they're wearing. Their eyes are so crusted with stuff that there are flies sitting on their eyes. And yet, these kids have the most beautiful smiles and tinkling laughter with absolutely nothing in terms of what we measure as success. These kids were incredibly happy. When you look at that, you realize, wait a second, this is pretty amazing. Keep your mind open. You can look at it a different way. We all have things, we all have miseries, and we all worry about the miseries that we have. But look around you. You might actually find that you're luckier than a lot of other people. And that should give you some joy. That should give you some idea that you need to be thankful for the blessings you have been given, whether by your hard work or whether by luck, accident of birth, I don't know. But we need to be thankful for what we have.
Yeah.
And opening your eyes to that and recognizing that this is a gift that was given to you. A good friend of mine once told me, he says, a gift is a gift only as long as you give it to the next person. If you get a gift and you keep it for yourself, it's not a gift anymore, it's a possession. And that was a thing which struck me. I was in that rat race of wanting to be, the corner office, this, that, the other, all the rest of it. And then this gentleman, he told me this thing. And I said, you're absolutely right. What is this accumulation for at the end of the day?
Because you get nothing back from it. I mean,
Nope.
but that no, that's that. I love that because you're right. The act of giving is always more pleasant than the act of receiving, especially if you
Absolutely.
put thought into it, if you put creativity into something, if you actually give something that you know will bring joy to somebody, that helps you
Yes,
and the other person.
absolutely.
Um, yeah, and we know that innately, but yeah,
And and
yeah,
we see it when we do it at Christmas, when we do it
right.
other holidays, when we do it for a birthday. The amount of joy to go shopping for somebody, to think about what they would like and what's going to give them joy, and then watch them open that gift and see that smile light their face up. That's worth a hell of a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that is, and we just need to apply that further
Yes.
than for the 1 or 2 or 3 days a year that we decide that we're going to let ourselves feel that way.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. So Raul, as we kind of wrap things up here, I mean, you and I, we always burn time fast. It seems like we've
Yes,
been here for
indeed.
2 minutes, and it's been 23. But I always ask you for golden nuggets, but it seems like our entire conversation is just one gigantic pot of them. But what do you want before people pick up Impact Shift and give it a read? What do you want some of our audience just to kind of take away before they pick that up?
Well, I think a lot of what we've talked about, you'll get into much more detail if you pick up a copy of Impact Shift and read it. But I think the one thing, whenever you're thinking about life, is when you ask the question, when you're asking yourself, you want to do something, you ask yourself, why should I do this? Ask that, but also ask, why not? Because if there is no good reason for you not to take a leap, to make a change, you're never going to do it. You have to be willing to say, okay, there is no good reason for me not to make this shift or not to take this little micro pivot. Do it. See how it works. Open yourself up to exploration. Open yourself up to learning. Open yourself up to be empathetic and to be able to understand what another person is going through. And I think you're going to find it's a very rewarding thing to do.
I agree. I agree. Well, Raul, how can our audience find out more about you? I know you have a few new things that have been in the works. So just to
Yes,
update anybody that's been following you, any what new ways to find out more?
absolutely. So I now have a website which
Yep.
I update routinely. It's rahulrprasad.com. You can find me there. I am on Instagram and I'm on TikTok as well as on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is just my name, Rahul Prasad. TikTok and Instagram, Rahul Prasad Creates.
Excellent.
And I am posting regularly and talking about my book and other things that move me.
Perfect. Well, ladies and gentlemen, those links are down below. I definitely suggest that you give it a follow. Raul, it's been great. Again, let's do the 5-time club.
Absolutely. You got it. You
All
got it,
right.
Andy.
Excellent.
It's been a pleasure as always, Andrew.
As always, sir, my friend, as always. Take care,
All
sir.
right. Take care. Bye-bye.